Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, the go-to podcast for those flipping the script and taking the unexpected path. I'm your host, Jessica Bergio, holistic life and business coach, author, speaker, and self-proclaimed high-energy hype girl. Each week, I'm bringing you inside. No gatekeeping here. I'll touch on proven holistic business strategies, powerful mindset shifts that have led my clients through massive transformations, and no BS conversation with industry leaders designed to help you get out of your own way to actively pursue a life of purpose. If you're ready to ditch the limitations at the door, hit follow and get ready to be activated to step boldly towards your big goals. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to Unscripted, the podcast. I'm so excited you're here for today's episode because I'm going to go in real quick and hard, sharing with you these things that I feel can be super helpful to getting you to the top 5% of podcasting, maybe even top 1.5% like I just hit recently. So yay for that. Thank you guys for tuning in so much to this show. It means the world that I get to serve you here on this platform. You clearly like these episodes because we just hit, like I said, top 1.5%. And that's not easy to do, but I'm here to share some ways that you can take your podcast from being not known to potentially reaching top 1.5%. But 5% is one of those sweet spots that I know is possible. A, if you don't quit, and B, if you follow these 5 steps that I'm going to share with you. So we're going to dive right in. Y'all know I've had this podcast, and if you didn't, for just over 3 years, we started out as the Beauty Inspires Beauty podcast when I opened in the middle of COVID. I started the show during the middle of COVID when we were locked down. My salon was closed and I could not work. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jess Bergio and I am the host of this amazing podcast, as I do like to say myself. And we are now called Unscripted. And this, one of the many things that is so powerful about a podcast is you can pivot and switch and the show can grow with you alongside your listeners, alongside your point of views in life, alongside all of the things you get to experience. You get to bring people with you. And that's the coolest thing about long form content is you can make it what you want. So, and today, this is a guide that I'm actually going to be creating for podcasters. If you didn't know, I ran a podcast agency for quite a while where we helped brand new podcasters and current podcasters take their shows to the next level or launch their shows. And so having a strategy and a framework behind your content is going to be the thing that sets you apart early on versus just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, I do think getting your reps in is super important, which means getting in front of the microphone, talking, listening to yourself, quote unquote, watching back the tape of yourself and seeing if you like what's coming out of your mouth. Do you like how quickly you talk? Do you like how slow you talk? Do you like the filler words you use by accident, pauses, laughs? Do you talk awkwardly and slowly? Can you complete a sentence? Can you complete a point of view? Or are you kind of all over the place? So these are some of the things that I've done over the last couple of years to really study how I put content out. Is it landing? I listen back to my episodes, whereas I didn't in the very beginning because I think I was a little too embarrassed to admit I didn't like how I sounded. Now I can listen to my own voice without feeling like it's nails on a chalkboard. So let's dive right in. These are definitely the things that can help get you to the top 5% in podcasting or even the top 1.5% like it has for me. First and foremost, audio quality. I am using a Shure MV7 mic, which you can get on Amazon. I have a link for you. The mic quality on this one is amazing. And I like to sit within 2 to 3 inches of the mic itself. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see there's about a hand width away from the microphone. I overly pronounce my P's. So if I get too close to the microphone, it picks up and it's a little hard for the editors to take out some of those pitches that come through. So audio quality is key. If you have a room that has hardwood floors or tiles, make sure that you have a rug in there. But with platforms like Riverside, they can really cancel out the background noise. So often I'm just fine no matter what room I'm in, but a carpeted, padded, somewhat soundproof room can be really helpful. But I've listened back to some episodes where I knew there was background noise and it wasn't there. So between editing and between having the room set up for the sound, you're going to have great audio quality. But I do also want to share with you ways that you can just jump in and not have to worry about some of this stuff. Again, these are the top 5 things I think will help set you apart. But I know so many people who started their podcast with their Apple AirPods because they were just willing to get started messy and then they were okay with it. The second thing I want to share is staying in the weeds of your business can hold you back. So if podcasting is part of your business, having your podcast edited and produced by somebody else can be a huge needle mover in helping you stay in the content creation part of the business, meaning you are actually the content creator, right? You are the podcast host. And so if you are spending just as much time editing your show and putting it out and doing all the graphics and posting, that could take away from the creative side of you getting good guests on your show or getting prepared for interviews that you might be doing for your show or really creating good, thoughtful content that's going to move the needle in other people's lives, therefore wanting them to pay, getting them to pay to be in your world, whether you have a coaching program or something to sell them. The third thing is you don't need a script, but I have some questions that I'm just going to read off. Now you can either download the PDF that we're going to make for you that's attached to this, or you can pause these, record them, transcribe this episode and print them out for you. But because my podcast is really around inspiring and motivating people to take action, I ask specific questions in my show, like what inspires or motivates you to the guests? Because I truly want to know, what are some things that are getting people fired up to take that action? What are some challenges that you face in starting your business? I feel like this is full permission to get as nosy as possible when you are talking to a guest because you have their undivided attention. And I want to know, what are some of the challenges that almost made you quit in your business? What is your superpower? Now, you can do these in rapid fire if you want, or you can pepper them throughout your interview. It's often fun to do these questions to yourself and answer them on your own when you're doing solo episodes because your listeners want to hear from you. Another one I like is, what is your favorite failure? And a lot of people have more than one. You'd be surprised because failure often is what? Redirection. Yeah. Another one I love to ask is, are there any specific keys to share around building your dream life? So is there something specific that person has found that they're doing in order to build their potentially dream life? I love to ask favorite books, favorite podcasts, or who are their mentors? Who are they learning from? I'm always learning about new people or new books or new people I should follow on social media through my guests of the podcast. And then another one I love to ask are, what are the biggest struggles you see in people creating thriving, successful businesses? Because as a fellow business owner, you are probably doing something different than me, or even if you're doing something similar, there's something I can learn from you that you've learned from a past client or an experience that you've had. So always being the student and always asking those questions that seem like they're not that big of a deal, but they're great conversation starters to then take the conversation to the next level on the podcast. Now, I believe all of these questions can be pretty universal for a wide range of different podcasts, whether you're just doing something educational or entertaining or whatever your podcast flow might be. I definitely think that having some questions that you really want to know the answers to written on a piece of paper in front of you before you start your episode is key. Also, obviously, caveat to that is studying the guest and seeing what is getting them excited. What are they posting on social media? And knowing a lot about them before you have them on your show is key. Do they have a podcast? Have you listened to the last couple of episodes? Have you watched their stories to see? Do they have an upcoming launch? Do they have a book? Do they have a course, a program, something that you can plug for them so that you look like you gave it F and that you really are excited to have that guest on? It creates great synergy between you and the guest and overall just gives you a better chance at a great interview. Okay, number 4. Do you track your back end organization for your podcast? We have an amazing Google Doc that we give in our podcast course on how to set up the back end of your podcast. So you can stay really strategically organized, making sure that you're touching on all your brand pillars if you're really using strategy to grow your podcast. And again, if it's part of your marketing plan for your business, it's definitely one of those top of funnel things that you should be looking at and always driving traffic somewhere. And then the last thing I want to talk about is it will help you shoot up in the ranks if you've actively built some sort of an audience or fan base already, whether it's through social media or an email list. But maybe you're like me and you're like, Jess, I haven't done any of that yet. I was somebody who actually used podcasting as a way to grow my awareness that I even existed. Because you see, for 20 years, I sat behind the chair in a salon where I didn't need to be visible to the outside world. I only had enough clients I could handle in person. And so I really didn't utilize social media to grow my business in any form or fashion. And when I was looking to pivot, I realized that what a mistake that was, that I hadn't positioned myself as any sort of an expert online, and I had to start from ground zero. And I had to develop a brand by showing up and talking and providing value and giving insight to who is Jess and what is she here to do? And how can I be a part of her world? So that's where the podcast started. Yes, from a pain point. We were closed during COVID and I really wanted to give my industry a voice. But 2, I had deep down always wanted to start a podcast. I just didn't really have any clear direction on where I wanted to take the show and what I was going to use it for. So I think one of the key things too is not being so caught up on downloads and not being so caught up on metrics and numbers early on, just really getting your reps in and practicing. How do I sound? Do I like the flow of this conversation? How are my interviewing skills if you choose to have guests on your show? How am I getting my points across? Those are the key pieces to having somebody come back and listen to your episode time and time again. And for someone to share those episodes. If you can get those points across quickly, efficiently, and you're there to educate, entertain, or bring people along your journey, that's what they want. And so also testing and seeing, do the longer episodes do better? Do the shorter ones do better? Does my listenership have capacity for ads? How open are they to listening to ads? If you're someone who wants to monetize the show from brand sponsorships and ads, I would incorporate those early on, especially if you already have a product to sell. While we're talking about ads, I'll talk about monetization. When people raise their hand and they say, how do you monetize a podcast? The first thing I'll ask them back is, do you have something to sell? So if they have something to sell, clearly that's where you want to drive traffic to. But if you're brand new like I was, and you're like, I don't really have anything to sell yet, do you want to affiliate for other people's companies? What feels aligned for you to bring into the business that would match what you're selling but not be competitive? Those are fun places to start. You can see I talk a lot about Glossy, which is the new skin beauty hydrator that I use from Miss Lori Harder. She just launched that company and I'm loving it. It's a lemon flavored drink. You can find all these links in the show note. Take notes. This is how you do it. And then I'm also partnered with my girlfriend, Gina Aliotti, who created Focus, which is a product that helps me with memory, focus, and flow. I take 2 every single morning. I give my listeners a 20% discount. I don't make anything off of that. I just give my listeners the discount and I actually receive free product for that. So you can get paid in different ways. And then Glossy also, there's a kickback on that. There's a discount 15% for you guys in the show notes. And then also I get paid when anybody subscribes to the product through my link. And then I think the last thing, I obviously drive traffic to the things that I'm selling, which are my retreats, my mastermind programs, but I've affiliated for a variety of different businesses and products over the years that I really loved and that I use. So if there's a product that you love to share on social media and talk about, I would hit them up and say, hey, I'm a brand new podcaster and I'm willing to do ad spots for pennies on the dollar. If you're open to growing with me, I'll use my social media to leverage and share that I'm loving your products and what I'm using. Would you be willing to sponsor me and the podcast? So the answer is always no if you don't ask. And if you need more help deep diving onto this, we're going to be touching on this a little bit inside the Unscripted Live Retreat, June 6th in Scottsdale. But these are also one-off calls that I love to book all around podcast strategy. So I hope this episode was helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, I would love to hear from you. If you want me to touch on these even deeper and go a little bit further into how you can really grow your podcast, hit me up. Let me know. I'm down to create more content for you guys. Always loving these short episodes. If this is a fuck yeah Friday for you, I want to celebrate your wins, big or small. And we do that every Friday on my text community. Yeah, that's me. I'm the one sending those text messages every Friday. It is a text community number where I privately get to chat with you and you get to hear from me. I drop you the latest podcast episodes each week so you don't have to go looking for them and you don't have to forget where they are. You'll know exactly what they're about. Do I want to tune in or do I not? And I remind you to celebrate your wins, big or small, because we do not take enough time to celebrate our wins. And that number is 619-332-3045. You just text the word Friday or just scroll below and click the link in the show notes. I love having you a part of the community. It means so much when I see those downloads coming in and your feedback off the episode. So if you love this, if it was helpful, let me know. And I hope your podcast grows. And if you need help starting, let me know. I got you there too.